In the year 1859, in a small town where life followed the rules of tradition and expectation, a boy was born who would challenge everything people thought they knew about intelligence. Samuel Carter was no ordinary child. From the moment he could speak, his mind raced ahead of everyone around him, solving problems, asking questions, and seeing patterns that adults couldn't even imagine. People whispered in awe and disbelief, "How can a child so young think like this? How can a mind so small hold such vast understanding?" Scholars tried to study him, scientists tried to explain him, yet no formula or theory could contain the brilliance that seemed to flow naturally from his mind. But Samuel's story was more than astonishing intellect. It was a journey of struggle and resilience, of facing prejudice and doubt, of inspiring wonder in a world that wasn't always ready to see greatness in someone like him. It was a story that revealed a timeless truth. Human potential can be limitless, and brilliance can emerge where it is least expected. Prepare to step into the extraordinary life of a boy so intelligent that science itself could not explain him. A story of genius, courage, and the undeniable power of human potential. In 1859, in a small town, a young black boy named Samuel Carter began to show signs of intelligence that were unlike anything the townspeople had ever seen. From a very early age, he asked questions that went beyond what a child his age would normally wonder about. While other children played simple games, Samuel spent hours observing, experimenting, and thinking. His mind seemed to race ahead of everyone else, solving problems and making connections that baffled even the adults around him. At school, teachers were astonished. When presented with lessons in mathematics, Samuel didn't just learn the formulas. He understood the reasoning behind them in ways they could not explain. When asked to solve a difficult problem, he sometimes came up with answers so clever that the teachers would pause, unsure whether to trust a child's solution. His brilliance didn't stop at numbers. He could read books far above his grade level, recall details perfectly, and even notice patterns in nature that most adults would miss entirely. But this extraordinary intelligence brought more than admiration. It brought surprise, confusion, and even fear. People around him struggled to comprehend how a boy so young could think so deeply. Some questioned if it was luck. Others doubted the boy entirely. Yet, through it all, Samuel remained curious and humble, showing a natural joy in learning rather than pride in being smarter than everyone else. The emotions in this story are vivid. Imagine the teacher's astonishment, the townspeople's whispers of disbelief, and the boy's quiet determination. You feel both awe and sympathy, wondering how society would treat such a gifted child, and hoping that his talents could be recognized and nurtured rather than suppressed. The lesson here is timeless. Human potential can far exceed expectations. Samuel's story reminds us that intelligence is not always visible at first glance, and that brilliance can emerge in the most unexpected places. It teaches us to honor curiosity, to value learning, and to recognize that some gifts are so extraordinary that even the rules of science and society struggle to explain them. Word of Samuel Carter's extraordinary intelligence quickly spread beyond his small town, reaching the ears of scholars, scientists, and learned men across the region. Curious and intrigued, they decided to study him, eager to uncover the secret behind a child whose mind seemed to work in ways that defied explanation. They set up tests, asked questions, and challenged him with problems designed to measure intelligence. They expected to find a formula, a method, or some explanation that would fit neatly into their understanding of logic and science, but Samuel's mind refused to conform. When presented with complex mathematical puzzles, he not only solved them with ease, but often came up with methods the scholars had never imagined. When asked to explain his reasoning, he gave answers so intuitive and original that the scientists themselves struggled to follow. It was as if his thoughts were operating on an entirely different plane, a place where ordinary rules and theories no longer applied. The emotions in these encounters were a mixture of astonishment, frustration, and admiration. The scholars, used to being the authority on knowledge, felt humbled and confused. They scratched their heads, murmured among themselves, and even doubted the boy's abilities at first. How could someone so young surpass the collective wisdom of learned men? Yet, as they observed him over time, disbelief gave way to awe. Samuel's calm confidence contrasted sharply with the scholars' growing anxiety. They had never met a mind that so effortlessly transcended the boundaries of conventional thought. Samuel himself remained unfazed. He approached each question with curiosity, joy, and an eagerness to learn, never seeking to prove superiority or impress others. His brilliance was pure and unpretentious, a natural expression of his innate abilities. This made the scholars' frustration all the more pronounced. They were trying to measure a mind that simply could not be measured in the ways they knew. The lesson in this keynote is profound. True genius often cannot be confined by existing rules or frameworks. Samuel's story reminds us that some forms of intelligence are beyond traditional understanding, and that humility and openness are required when confronting the extraordinary. It teaches us to appreciate the marvels of human potential and to recognize that sometimes curiosity, creativity, and original thinking matter more than conformity to established logic. Through this episode, we see a vivid clash between knowledge and wonder. Science, grounded in reason, encounters a mind that exceeds its limits, and in that tension, the audience feels both the thrill of discovery and the reminder that intelligence is not always something to be contained. It is something to be marveled at, celebrated, and respected. Even as Samuel Carter's brilliance continued to amaze scholars and townspeople alike, the world around him was not kind. In 1859, society was rigid and prejudiced, and being a young black boy placed him at the intersection of both curiosity and discrimination. No matter how extraordinary his mind, Samuel faced barriers that were entirely unrelated to his intelligence. Doors that should have opened because of his talent remained closed simply because of the color of his skin. At school, he encountered teachers who were impressed by his abilities but constrained by societal norms. They praised him in private, but hesitated to give him the recognition he deserved in public. Other children, influenced by their families and community, sometimes mocked or excluded him, unable to comprehend the magnitude of his intellect. Even adults who admired him often questioned whether he belonged. In spaces reserved for the privileged and opportunities for advanced learning were scarce. The emotions in this part of Samuel's life were intense. There was the quiet frustration of being brilliant yet limited by prejudice, the sadness of realizing that talent alone could could not erase the injustices of the world, and the resilience of a young mind determined to continue learning despite obstacles. Samuel's perseverance became as remarkable as his intellect. Rather than succumbing to despair, he focused on his curiosity, finding ways to learn from books, nature, and conversations wherever he could. Major events highlight this struggle. He might have been denied entry to certain classrooms or public libraries. Local leaders or influential figures may have doubted him, unable to reconcile his genius with the social hierarchies they had long accepted. Yet Samuel found quiet victories, moments when he solved a problem that no adult could, or impressed someone who finally recognized his potential, proving that intelligence cannot be hidden, even when society tries to suppress it. The lesson here is both powerful and timeless. Brilliance alone is not always enough in a world structured by prejudice. Samuel's story teaches us about resilience, courage, and the importance of perseverance. It reminds us that talent must often fight against societal barriers, and that recognizing potential requires both openness of mind and heart. It also urges the audience to reflect on the injustices that can stifle greatness, and the responsibility of society to nurture it instead. Through this chapter, we feel the tension between extraordinary ability and unfair limitation. We admire Samuel not only for what he knows, but for the strength and dignity he shows while navigating a world that seeks to underestimate him. His story inspires hope, empathy, and a deep understanding that true genius is not only about intellect. It is about the courage to rise above the obstacles that seek to contain it. As Samuel Carter continued to grow, his extraordinary intelligence began to inspire more than just amazement. It sparked genuine wonder in everyone who encountered him. People didn't just see a talented boy, they witnessed something almost magical, a mind that seemed to operate on a higher level of insight, creativity, and understanding. His brilliance became a source of fascination, drawing scholars, neighbors, and even strangers to observe and learn from him. In everyday life, Samuel's curiosity was contagious. When he asked questions, others felt challenged to think deeper. When he solved problems effortlessly, people didn't simply admire his ability. They were inspired to see the world differently, to notice patterns, connections, and possibilities they had overlooked. Even adults who were considered wise or learned found themselves humbled and, in some ways, renewed in their love for discovery. Some memorable moments highlight this effect. Imagine a local scientist watching Samuel explain a complex mathematical concept in a way so simple and clear that it suddenly made perfect sense. Or consider townspeople witnessing him solve a practical problem that no one else could figure out, leaving them in silent awe. His brilliance was not confined to textbooks or academic circles. It touched the hearts and minds of everyone around him, stirring curiosity, admiration, and a sense of hope. Emotionally, these experiences were profound. There was excitement, the thrill of witnessing genius firsthand. There was humility, the realization that human potential is far greater than expected. And there was inspiration, the subtle, transformative power of seeing someone challenge the limits of possibility. Samuel's quiet confidence, paired with his relentless curiosity, made him a living example of what is possible when talent, determination, and intellect come together. The lessons in this keynote are timeless. Samuel's story reminds us that true brilliance has the power to elevate others, not just through teaching, but through the very act of being extraordinary. It encourages us to appreciate curiosity, to honor intelligence, and to celebrate those who inspire us to grow, think differently, and dream bigger. It also teaches that inspiration is not always loud or showy. It can be subtle, transformative, and deeply personal, leaving a lasting impact on anyone who witnesses it. Through this chapter, the audience feels a mix of wonder, admiration, and hope. Samuel's mind becomes a mirror reflecting the potential within all of us, urging us to nurture curiosity, embrace learning, and recognize the extraordinary in everyday life. His story shows that genius is not just about knowledge. It is about inspiring others to see the world through new eyes, to believe in possibilities, and to celebrate the extraordinary spark that resides in every human mind. As the story of Samuel Carter unfolds, one clear lesson shines above all. Human potential can exceed even the highest expectations. Samuel, a young black boy in 159, was more than just intelligent. He was extraordinary in ways that challenged the assumptions of his society, the limits of science, and the expectations of those around him. His life became a living proof that talent, determination, and curiosity are forces capable of transcending barriers and defying norms. Despite the obstacles he faced, prejudice, limited opportunities, and societal doubt, Samuel never let external circumstances define his worth or limit his growth. He approached every challenge with focus and curiosity, turning obstacles into opportunities to learn and grow. Each time a scholar failed to explain his methods or a teacher hesitated to recognize his genius, Samuel quietly demonstrated that true ability cannot be contained by rules, stereotypes, or social hierarchies. The story's key events emphasize this point. Samuel solved problems that adults could not, discovered patterns that defied conventional logic, and continued to grow intellectually even when society tried to hold him back. These moments were more than academic triumphs. They were victories over prejudice and narrow-mindedness. Each act of brilliance was a reminder that potential does not belong to the privileged or the expected. It belongs to anyone with curiosity, dedication, and an open mind. Emotionally, this keynote is both inspiring and empowering. Audiences feel admiration for Samuel's intellect, empathy for the struggles he endured, and hope that human potential can shine in even the most unlikely circumstances. His story evokes awe as viewers witness a young boy surpass what everyone thought possible, and it also sparks reflection. What limits do we impose on ourselves or others? What untapped abilities might be waiting to emerge if given encouragement instead of doubt? The most important lesson is universal. Intelligence, talent, and human potential cannot be fully measured by society's expectations, social norms, or even scientific understanding. Samuel's story teaches us to look beyond appearances, to nurture curiosity and learning, and to recognize that extraordinary abilities can emerge in anyone at any time. It reminds us that greatness is not always obvious, and that courage, perseverance, and a love of learning can turn challenges into remarkable achievements. Ultimately, this keynote leaves the audience with a sense of empowerment and hope. Samuel Carter's story becomes a timeless testament to what humans are capable of when talent is combined with curiosity, resilience, and determination. It inspires viewers to believe in themselves and in others, to celebrate unique abilities, and to remember that human potential is limitless when we refuse to be confined by expectations or prejudice. Samuel Carter's journey is a testament to the extraordinary power of human potential. From a boy whose mind baffled scholars and scientists alike, to a young man who faced prejudice and societal barriers, his story reminds us that true brilliance cannot be confined by rules, expectations, or limitations. He showed the world that intelligence is not measured by age, status, or appearance. Every problem he solved, every insight he shared, was a quiet rebellion against doubt and discrimination, a demonstration that talent, curiosity, and determination can surpass the narrow boundaries society often sets. But beyond the awe-inspiring feats of intellect, Samuel's story is a story of resilience and hope. It teaches us that struggles do not diminish greatness, they shape it, that admiration and wonder are born not just from knowledge, but from the courage to pursue it against all odds. That the human spirit, when combined with a relentless love of learning, can illuminate even the darkest corners of doubt and prejudice. As the story closes, we are left inspired. We carry with us the lesson that potential knows no limits, and that genius can appear where it is least expected. Samuel Carter's life challenges us to look beyond the obvious, to nurture curiosity, and to honor the extraordinary spark within ourselves and others. In the end, his story is more than about intelligence. It is about hope, resilience, and the boundless possibilities of the human mind. A boy so brilliant that science could not explain him leaves a timeless legacy. That greatness, when recognized and celebrated, can change the way we see the world and the way we see ourselves.